Hello, hello. One, two, three. Okay, it looks like we have sound. Anybody that's watching right now, please put in the chat if you can or cannot hear me. But looks like we are all good. So here we go. Thank you very much for joining. It is just before 4 o'clock right now. The sun is bouncing off of a building made entirely of glass. So I'm going to power through this. I feel like in the next few minutes is going to be shining directly in my eyes. So thank you very much for bearing with me if I get, a little squinty here for a little bit. So, as everyone is coming in, let's just give everyone a few more minutes. Halloween is over. I hope everyone had a great Halloween. There was one thing that I was thinking about because I went into Starbucks this morning and everything was Christmas. And I feel like around this time right now, everyone talks about it's not time for Christmas. We got to do Thanksgiving before we do Christmas. And then some people like to just go on ahead and do Christmas. One of the problems that I have with this time, first of all, when it comes to Thanksgiving, this is a movie show, so we're going to talk about movies. Also, if you're seeing a little bit of a blip with the camera, that is something we're going to have to struggle through today. I'm going to look to get that fixed, but I feel like audio should still be good, so as well. Sorry about that. We don't have really any Thanksgiving movies. There are some. You've got Charlie Brown. You've got Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. You've got some stuff in there. I also am going to assume that I'm missing some. So if you're watching this in the chat, put a Thanksgiving movie that you appreciate, something that would be good, because I definitely want to review some leading up to Thanksgiving. But also, I hate the idea of having less than a month after Thanksgiving to celebrate Christmas. I feel like right now we are in the Christmas season, and Thanksgiving should be seen as a really worthy sub-holiday that we celebrate and we give its own time whenever it comes near. But still, I feel like people that are putting up Christmas decorations right now, I think they're hitting on something that should be respected. I just don't like the idea of less than 2 months, less than a month of Christmas. I want 2 months of Christmas, especially since I'm in New York right now. It's freaking freezing. I'm from the South. I am not used to this. So let's move on to the Alec Baldwin shooting update. So the DA has confirmed that criminal charges is without a doubt going to come down. We do not know who. We don't know who is going to be charged, but we know that it is without a doubt going to happen. So right now, everyone's lawyers are poisoning the well, letting everyone know, at least in the court of public opinion, hey, my guy's okay. My guy's all right. So let's go through all the defense narratives that are being set up for everyone right now. And I mean, as we go through, I feel like we probably have a few weeks now before any charges actually happen. So first of all, on the side of the producers, and this is the side that is protecting Alec Baldwin as well. He's rolled into the producers that are being protected because he was involved with the production company. So they are saying essentially it's the workers' fault. It's the armorer's fault. It is the assistant director's fault. Pardon the helicopter going overhead, saying even that the set was totally safe. Alec Baldwin said this in a Facebook post, which I feel like was a bad play on his move. Most people were kind of like, dude, say what you want about whether or not you and the people in charge of the set were at fault. Don't say that set was safe. And we'll get to more of what they found later. But he also said in a statement that he was friends with the cinematographer, that they had gotten dinner a few times with the director, that they were on good speaking terms, I think trying to neutralize any talk of having any malice towards her. And again, as someone who actually did or did not pull the trigger but was holding the gun, I don't think he's got a lot of things to worry about here. I think more as a producer, he's got to worry. But his side right now is saying it's not their fault. They weren't really in charge of what was going on. Then the workers, the people that are representing the actual workers, are instead pointing away from the assistant director and the armorer by saying there is a chance that there was some type of sabotage going on here. Now, they're not pointing the fingers at anyone saying this person, that department is sabotaging, or we know that they tried to do this. Essentially, what they're saying is this incident happened days after a very heated strike was about to happen. There were a lot of emotions at play about the industry in particular, meaning that everyone was very opinionated about working conditions in general. Working conditions were known to not be great on the set. A lot of people were vocal before anything happened about safety concerns. So they're pretty much saying, how in the world are we supposed to know after finding live, sun's really coming out now, saying we found live rounds on the truck. And they did. They said that they found several rounds of live ammunition on the truck that ended up being mixed in with the blanks. So they're saying there's a possibility that someone meant to do that, meaning that we can't say for sure that it's one of these two people. So it feels like there's kind of just a circle that's going to go on here in terms of who we're going to blame as to what's going on. But I think what makes it interesting, the husband is filing a wrongful death suit. And whenever it comes to who is actually going to pay for what is responsible in that lawsuit, I honestly think they're going to end up having to point to the producers. They're going to have to point to the people that are at the level like Alec Baldwin, who are saying, okay, which of the producers was on that set? Who knew that there were people firing live rounds the day before? Who knew that there were people quitting this production because things were totally unsafe? And you didn't call it. You didn't say that we need to do something here to make things a little bit safer. At that point, I'd honestly be surprised if I was about to speculate onto what actual criminal charges were going to mean. I have no idea how any of that works. I feel like that lawsuit, the one that the husband is filing, is the one that might end up becoming a bigger story than whatever the DA does, because I can see that just kind of going in circles. But this is also now starting to affect the actual culture of Hollywood in and of itself. There are a lot of people coming out. I think New Mexico is now saying that they're going to ban productions from using prop guns, which a prop gun is a real gun. Just don't, if you hear prop gun at any point, that's just a real gun. And so a lot of other places in Hollywood, Dwayne Johnson is now saying that on his productions, because he owns a production company, he's saying no guns on his sets. That's not going to be allowed anymore. And I don't know. I feel like that introduces a question of, is there a use for having real weapons on set? And by that, I mean, of course, it introduces an element of danger. And as Dwayne Johnson even points out, for over 75 years, they've used real weapons with almost no incidences, because when you follow the protocols, things don't go wrong. But look at Mad Max. That was an incredibly dangerous set using lots of very heavy machinery. There is not as much CGI as you would think there is in that movie. Look at these Mission Impossible movies where Tom Cruise is hanging off the side of these buildings. Like, I don't think Tom Cruise has a death wish. I think that there is an actual level of credibility given to, if Tom Cruise does the stunts, it's going to make the scene better. If we have actual people on these cars that ram into each other on the set of Mad Max when fire is being blown directly in their faces, it may be dangerous, but that is going to add a level of realism that you're not going to get whenever Dwayne Johnson is standing right there going, pew, 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 pew. I just think, I get it. I feel like the protocol should be followed. And I think I'm sympathetic to the idea of removing guns from the sets. But I do wonder what it is you are going to lose, because I don't think you don't lose anything by taking away that extra step. So many of the greatest filmmakers go the extra step to make things a little bit more unique. The Hobbit says, put Alec Baldwin in jail because he was the executive producer. He pulled the trigger. He allowed unsafe conditions. He hired amateur film crews. Not an accident. It was a death trap. In terms of who's going to go to jail, if anyone's going to go to jail, I don't think Alec Baldwin's going to go to jail. But in terms of the court of public opinion, like, if you're handed a gun, you check. And that's what so many armorers have even said. They've said on productions they've worked on, like, even with people more experienced, less experienced, people that are seasoned, unseasoned actors, a lot of armorers say you can tell the people who are very serious about the game, the actors that are very serious, because they check the gun as well. If you're handed a gun, you check the gun. Like, that's the thing that I don't get. I'm not saying that he's going to go to jail because of that, but I can't imagine. Like, I feel like you lose a lot of respect if you're Alec Baldwin in this situation, just with the general public. Like, how do you not check the gun? Like, that's very, and then as an executive producer, and again, not just Alec Baldwin, I feel like anyone that's an executive producer, a producer on that set, needs to be asked, what the hell were you doing not getting rid of all of those weapons if there was misfiring so many times, to the point that people were walking off? So we'll see what's going on, but people are definitely nervous. Back to the Thanksgiving thing. The Hobbit says the best Thanksgiving show is The Blind Side. Did The Blind Side have? I remember Orgeron was in The Blind Side. It's been so long since I've seen that. Honestly, I don't know if I want to go back. Maybe I'll try The Blind Side again, see what happens. Daniel Cardenas, Spider-Man 1 is a Thanksgiving movie. You know, I'm starting to remember. Was there a scene with a turkey? What happens that's Thanksgiving in that movie? I really do want to go back and watch I want to go back and watch that Spider-Man series, especially now Sam Raimi's coming out with a Marvel movie, which we'll talk about soon. Leanna Castaldo, The Blind Side, classic. There you go. I'll probably have to watch Blind Side now. Also, Danny, are you coming to New York? I never heard of that. If you're coming into town, let me know when. We'll have to catch up. Okay, now Eternals. Let's move on. This is having a weird run right now. Eternals. In the title of this, I said that it's flopping right now. In terms of money, it looks like Eternals is going to do pretty well. I think it's going to rake in and predicted to be about 75 million this weekend. So good show in terms of that. But what I would ask is, how important is the critical response to this movie? Marvel movies have enjoyed a very, very long run of very high ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. I think the lowest rated movie was like, what was it? It was in the low 60s with what was the second Thor movie, The Dark World. It had like a 62, a 63 or something. They never like gone below into the really rotten area. And I don't know how important that is, because Eternals right now, I saw Screen Rant brought something out saying um, right now there are about 112 ratings on Rotten Tomatoes for Eternals, and everything. I'm sorry, I'm just got to, if I'm stuttering a little bit, I'm trying to get used to this sun right here. Right now, there are 112 ratings on Rotten Tomatoes that has Eternals at a 30. It's looking at getting to be about the 32% mark is where it's going to end up being. And what I'm kind of wondering about that is that going to matter in terms of the Marvel franchise in and of itself? Where is the Marvel franchise right now, really? It was 2019, 2018, 2019, whenever Endgame happened. And that was a huge, huge finale. We had these huge send-offs. Captain America went off and did his own thing. We got a send-off for, obviously, now I'm realizing maybe I shouldn't spoil this. Okay. There are send-offs for lots of people that kind of like restarted the chapters, having to build up. They've gotten a lot of TV shows that are getting a lot of plays in terms of new characters and things like that. But Chadwick Boseman is now gone, meaning Black Panther is, on the ropes as well in terms of a story. You're kind of having a rebuild from there. But where does Marvel really go? They've tried to introduce a whole new cast of characters with Eternals. I have not seen it yet. I kind of feel like I need to see it, but there's not a lot going for it right now critically. The critics have always been very kind to the Marvel universe. We have to see what's going on with the audience here, but in terms of Marvel, is this hype going to die down? And if it does die down, what is going to take its place? That it'd be interesting to see what's going on with that. I'm not sure what the next Marvel movie is that's supposed to come out after this, but there's something about Marvel that even when I wasn't a huge fan of it, it always felt like there was something new and something exciting that was coming on the horizon. It always felt kind of like a little bit of fast food, like you can go and you can enjoy a little bit of something, but it never really stuck with you. What if it doesn't even feel like good fast food now? I'm not really sure what's going to happen. Also, if you're seeing stuff about things being banned, there's a lot of tweets going out just saying, "Oh, it's banned because of blah 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 blah." Pretty much what's going on right now in the United Arab Emirates, in Jordan, in Lebanon, in Egypt. It is banned for intimacy reasons. Apparently, they don't like whenever they show kissing of any kind at all. So that they just want all of that cut. In Kuwait and Qatar, it is being banned because it shows depictions of prophets and gods, even fictional ones. They don't like that. In Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Oman, it is banned. They wanted intimacy things cut, and they also wanted a bunch of other stuff cut that Disney was not willing to do. So that, I don't know what that even means. I had not really followed I always thought it was always a very binary thing why people ban types of movies, but it's some weird reasons. It's very weird to think that some places cut it just because you're showing religion, even if it's a comic book religion, which is strange. The Hobbit says the Marvel franchise is still known because, they need to add Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Deadpool. I do kind of wonder about Fantastic Four, what's going to happen with that. But, right. Okay. Spider-Man is on its way back. So, okay, yeah. No, that Marvel is probably going to be okay. It's interesting with Eternals. I think it's interesting to see, are they going to be able to add a new property from Marvel that we have not established before with levels of nostalgia? Fantastic Four, we've all seen renditions that have not worked, but we're familiar with it. Spider-Man, obviously, we're going to get a ton of nostalgia for the new Spider-Man movie. But what else? I mean, what else are we going to get? I think the Hulk is supposed to get his own movie at some point. We'll see what will happen with that. That's an interesting story to see how Marvel is going to continue to evolve, because their star players, really, Robert Downey Jr., I think, is the heart of what is missing in Marvel right now. But we'll see what happens. Maybe Spider-Man's going to end up being the heart. But in terms of also what we were saying with Marvel, if the hype does die down, what will take its place? Because I think we are kind of looking, especially with how Dune is doing, we're getting a lot of new properties that are going to be exciting, a lot of new stories that are being introduced into movies right now. But one thing that I found a little disconcerting over the week was that David Chase, the creator of The Sopranos, obviously in the news because he's got the prequel movie that's out right now, The Many Saints of Newark, got the review on the channel if you want to check that out. He came out in an interview and confirmed what it is that happened at the cut to black at the end of The Sopranos. Now, I'm not going to spoil, I'm not going to say what happens. If you have not seen The Sopranos, you have to watch it. It's such a good show. But there is a lot, I feel like it's pretty definitive what happens, but there's something about leaving the mystery there that speaks to so many other things that are great about The Sopranos. I loved The Green Knight this year because there's so much mystery in that movie, which allows you to think back on it and just kind of open your mind to different avenues. Even if there are like avenues where it's like, no way, there's no way that's what happened with Tony. There's no way that's what happened with Carmen. There's no way that's what happened with anyone else. Actually having to think about all the alternatives makes the show so much richer. For the creator to come out and just be like, oh yeah, no, this is what happened. It's like, dude, you made the show. Didn't you get the value of why you did why'd you do that? It feels like it dilutes the whole thing a little bit. And in the interviews that he's been doing right now, he's been saying that because of the many scenes of Newark, I've got so many ideas. The problem is, though, Warner Brothers wants a new TV show. I want to do a series of movies that kind of expands on the Sopranos universe. And I feel like there needs to be a level wherever certain creators, certain studios just know, hey, let's just leave it alone. Why don't we let's just leave it alone? We've got so much money. We've got so much all other IP that we can go and reach for to create. Why don't we take a few risks? Let's take a few risks, do a few new things. But do we really need to be going back and looking at the monsters? And I said all of this again in the Many Saints of Newark review, but you're going to get it again. Do we have to reach back into the past? Look at everything that made everyone in The Sopranos, the people from The Sopranos, see what happened to Tony whenever he was going through puberty, see what happened to Tony whenever he got his first odd job. Like, we don't need to see any of that stuff. And I feel like we've learned lessons from Star Wars, Indiana Jones. I feel like they're doing this to Ghostbusters right now. It's kind of like, I feel like there's a power in leaving the originals alone, not because it's a nostalgia play and, oh, I just loved it better whenever I was younger and that's just the way it belongs. But it's just, why don't we make new stories? I feel like we should focus on making new stories, getting people excited about new characters, new ideas. I mean, it's not like we're lacking on that, but I think you just need to learn to walk away, give new stories a chance to thrive. And I feel like that is another incredible thing about Dune. It was a huge risk that so many studios have said, we're not going to do it. One studio did it. They are enjoying the success of that right now, but they're also enjoying the fact that, okay, we can trust that. And it's funny that it's Warner Brothers that did Dune, and they did this too. But if a studio is going to say we're going to take a risk with a big new project, does not always work, but whenever it does, it makes movies in general more exciting, as opposed to, oh, good, we got an okay third season of a new show about The Sopranos. And it's like, eventually The Sopranos is only going to be half of the entire canon. And it's like Star Wars. It's kind of like, we got 7 movies that are meh, and then we've got 2 that are awesome. So, I mean, Star Wars then at that point isn't that great. I think just leave it alone. That's all I'll say about it. Just leave it alone. Another huge piece of exciting news. Some of this I think is a little bit older of the story I'm going to talk about, but I caught up on some of the details and was just pretty pumped about this. So Nolan's new movie is Oppenheimer, about the creator of the atomic bomb. Christopher Nolan has signed on some really good actors. He's about to sign Emily Blunt, it sounds like. He's got Cillian Murphy, who's going to play Oppenheimer from Peaky Blinders. He signed Robert Downey Jr. and Matt Damon now. The more that this whole movie shapes up, I'm incredibly excited about it. Talking about what I was referring to just now with David Chase and Sopranos, Nolan is an example of someone who is exciting because you always know you're going to get something new and unique from him when it comes to a story, which is very rare. It is very rare to get a fully formed story that you don't get to go to a book or a TV show or a series to eat everything else up. I mean, we've got Oppenheimer's biography, which you can go to, but I think that's okay. But it's really making a movie about someone like this, clearly a very conflicted historical figure, is exciting because you can just tell that's going to be a very mature story. It's not going to be like Marvel, a very black and white look at blah, 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 like you're just having a good time. And Nolan also, I think it's exciting because he always does action movies. The only time he's really done something that's focused in on character is The Prestige. And now we've got something that I really think seems like it's going to be a full-on character study, which he has not embraced fully. So in terms of even following him as a director, he's doing new things. I feel like we need to make it more of a normal thing in terms of an audience to expect new and exciting things from the creators out in Hollywood. The stuff, just the same stuff being churned out again and again, is it's just not. It makes everything feel very stale, and I think that's part of the reason why it was tough for people to go back to the theaters recently. But looking in on, obviously, Nolan was stolen away from Warner Brothers. I mean, he left Warner Brothers. Really, he wasn't going to go back after how they messed up the HBO Max rollout. But Universal Studios stole Nolan from Warner Brothers, and you can tell that Universal. Well, first of all, if Nolan is opening a new side of his storytelling by focusing in on character, then it would be exciting for him to also be setting up a new stable at Universal. And you can tell Universal really wants to keep him happy. So here's the deal that they reached with him. Nolan obviously has final cut. I feel like that's kind of standard with him. The budget for this movie, the production budget is $100 million. Okay, we're working with it. I mean, I guess how big was Tenet? I forget how big Tenet was, but they're putting another $100 million on top of that for the marketing, meaning that right now it is $200 million for this new movie, which is enthralling, especially since it's a character piece. I kind of wonder where all of the money is going to go, but exciting with Nolan. Then after that, Universal is going to do a month and a half blackout for this movie, meaning 3 weeks before the movie comes out and 3 weeks after the movie comes out, Universal will put no movies out. They are only going to funnel the audience to Christopher Nolan's movie in the theater, something like, I think, a 90-day time of actually being in the theater, so not going on streaming for a good while. And then Nolan gets 20% of the box office, which is good for Nolan. I feel like I want this movie to really succeed. It'd be great to see Nolan do something different. It'd be great for a studio to get behind him, make him happy, and it'd also just be great to have a movie to look forward to that we know is going to be pretty badass when it comes to the theatrical experience. Okay, then moving on to a few of the smaller stories throughout the week. Taika Waititi is going to adapt the newest Alejandro Jodorowsky graphic novel, The Inkle, as a film. I do not know the graphic novel. I'm definitely going to look it up now. Jodorowsky is I love Jodorowsky as a director. He is weird as hell. I forget where his play. I think the IFC Center is supposed to play. What is the name of that? I forget the name of the cowboy movie that he made. That El Topo. They're supposed to be playing El Topo soon, so I'm definitely going to check that out. Jodorowsky, of course, was trying to make Dune before Lynch was, and I don't know if he said anything about the new Dune movie. I'll need to look that up. Also, Lady Gaga's House of Gucci method acting, she says, made her lose touch with reality, which is very interesting, as to then assume that Lady Gaga's ever had touch with reality. And then The Beta Test is a movie that I feel like you should have on your radar if you don't right now. It's the new Jim Cummings movie. And there's an incredible article on IndieWire talking about how it is that he says he liberated himself from the studio system, trying to break into the studio system, that type of filmmaking, and instead made it easy for him and his small group to be able to make small movies that ended up kind of stepstoning their ways throughout the film festival circuit to become, I mean, they're playing like these huge international film festivals now. So I would say check that out on IndieWire. That seems very cool. The review out on the channel today is The French Dispatch, the new Wes Anderson movie. I won't stick too much on this, but I'm a Wes Anderson fan. I enjoy his stuff. This movie feels like he's really stuck in a rut. It felt like Wes Anderson was stuck in a very serious rut with Steve Zissou and the Darjeeling Limited, and then Fantastic Mr. Fox kind of popped him out of that and made him realize that there's actually a story that you can tell whenever you're making a movie. But this movie feels a lot like it did whenever he was making things like Darjeeling. He clearly loves movies. He clearly loves the style that you can bring to film. But this movie is so full of itself. It is just way too much. The Hobbit, thumbs down on The French Dispatch. I 100% agree. And it sucks because I really like Wes Anderson, but it just like the police story that's in it is, I think, the best story. And if you had made that, I think you could have made that into its own movie. But the biggest problem for me, in each of the short films, there is a point in it where I felt, how much longer does this short film have? And you get that in each one, meaning that there are 4 instances in a movie where the movie's an hour, 45 minutes, where you go, are we almost done here? Are we moving on now? I mean, that to get that in a 1 hour, 45 minute movie 4 times makes the movie feel like 2 hours and 15 minutes. So disappointing. There was a tweet yesterday. It said, Wes Anderson films are just as formulaic and repetitive as Marvel films. It's just that instead of them doing zany quips in superhero costumes while fighting CGI monsters, they all just act depressed and do long silences and woolly knit sweaters, which is not wrong. And the quote of the day that we'll end on is actually from Wes Anderson, where he says, "There is no story if there is no conflict." And yeah, there's conflict every now and then in the French Dispatch, but very little, very, very little conflict. And it gets very boring. The Hobbit, the painting artwork didn't work for me. It looked like a bowl of spaghetti. There you go. We can end it on that. Well, thank you everyone that has been watching. Thank you everyone that has been commenting. Check out the reviews that are on the channel. We should have reviews of Dune and Antlers next week. But again, comment if you're watching this after the live stream and let me know Thanksgiving movies, and I'll check them out. And we'll see if they make it onto the channel. But thank you very much for watching, and please be sure to subscribe for future updates on reviews and movie news.